On this episode of the Wise Counsel Project, we interview Jeff Henderson, lead pastor at North Point Ministries, Gwinnett Church. Join us as Jeff provides wise counsel to men and women of faith. All right, welcome to another episode of the Wise Counsel Project. Joining us today is Jeff Henderson. Jeff is the lead pastor of Gwinnett Church, which is the most recent church in the North Point Ministries branch of churches. And prior to that, you were the lead pastor at Buckhead Church. You also spent 21 years in marketing with the Atlanta Braves, Callaway Gardens, Lake Lanier Islands, also Chick-fil-A.
That's right.
And you and I have something in common, Jeff. We're both preacher's kids.
That's right. So we've probably been through many counseling sessions.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go ahead and swear you in if you don't mind, Jeff.
That's great. That's great.
To get those stories. Well, thank you again for taking
Absolutely,
time to be
Gary.
with us. I have in front of you Proverbs 13:20, and that's what we started the whole Wise Counsel Project about, with this Bible verse in mind. So if you don't mind, would love to have you read that for us, and then I'd like to get your thoughts on the verse.
Sure. Well, as you know, it says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." And I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son, and this is one of the principles that we teach them. And one of the things we want to say, though, is that iron sharpens iron is another biblical principle. And so put yourself around people that you want to emulate and lead your life after. At the same time, we don't want to just be a holy huddle and keep ourselves away from the world. So having a group of friends and then also some peers and some role models is very important, not only for my kids, but for me as well. And so I still surround myself with guys that I'm like, someday when I grow up, I want to be like you.
Yeah.
And whether it's their finances, their marriages, their relationship with kids or work or health or whatever, if you don't have someone like this, then you will fall down to whatever it is or whoever it is you're hanging out with. So who is it in your life that, I want to grow up to be like them?
Well, we all know Chick-fil-A, the whole foundation upon which the company was based. Tell us about that verse in terms of how it affected you within Chick-fil-A.
Well, I love Chick-fil-A. My wife says I've never really left Chick-fil-A. So I've been gone for 11 years, so I certainly love that company. The people ask me, what's the biggest difference from Chick-fil-A to North Point Ministries? And I said, well, the biggest difference is I work on Sundays now. At Chick-fil-A, I didn't work on Sundays. So, but again, I began to see people in that organization who were a few years ahead of me, and I simply said, can I spend some time? Can we go out to lunch? And I just want to pick your brain on a variety of topics, not just business related. And ironically, I was actually with one of those people yesterday, a gentleman who's one of the top executives there. He's a few years older than me, and so we get together twice a year, and I just ask him questions. What are you reading? What are you learning? Who are you learning from? What are books that you've read that's had an impact since the last time we got together? And to have that kind of an influence is just so very helpful.
How about in the religious arena? I know within the business world, we think it's a much wider circle. How about within the religious arena? Is there a smaller pool of people that you think you can surround yourself with, or how do you approach it?
Well, I really look for leaders that I would like to role model myself as a leader. And I think that can cut across business and church world. So there's certainly churches or nonprofit leaders that I try to connect with. The great thing with social media today is I have people that are influencing me that I've never met face to face, but we do have a relationship via social media, which is great. So I'm able to see what they're doing, how they're leading their organization or their church, and that gives me ideas and vice versa.
All right. Jeff, we're here in the midst of the Christmas season. It seems like the day after Halloween, the Christmas music started at the grocery stores, the malls.
That's right.
The Christmas decorations up. And we're constantly bombarded with ads, the Black Friday, the Cyber Monday. The focus seems to be on buying the gifts, the presents, the shopping. I recently interviewed Kirk Cameron, and we talked about his new movie, Saving Christmas. The whole idea is putting Christ back into Christmas. How can we do that?
Well, I think part of it obviously is giving and not getting necessarily caught up in the busyness. I do believe, though, that when you go to the mall and you shop and you buy something, that does provide something good for the people that are behind the counter.
Yeah, certainly economic benefit.
Right.
To
so I certainly believe in that, and I think we need to be careful that we make that from a negative standpoint, because when you go to the mall and you do purchase a Chick-fil-A sandwich on your way to buy a gift, that does something for the folks there, obviously. But how can you slow yourself down so that it doesn't get to December 22nd and it's just been a frantic pace so much that you're not able to enjoy the season? And so one of the things we've tried to do in our family is just do one thing a day. What is one thing that we could do today? In fact, in our churches, we just launched this past Sunday an Advent calendar, and you scratch off this one thing. Right. And so a couple of nights ago, it was just take a gift to your neighbor. So my wife, in fact, I could show you, my wife took a picture of our kids walking next door with a poinsettia and a pumpkin pie next door. Now, if you do that, that's the only thing you do that Christmas season, then you're going to probably get caught up in the pace of everything. But so tonight, when we're done here, I'm going to drive home and we're going to go. We don't know what that one thing is because we haven't scratched it off yet. So we'll scratch that off, and we'll do that tonight as a family. Last night, it was just around the dinner table, share your favorite Christmas memory. And so I think pausing and trying to be reflective and proactive and doing one thing. What is one thing that you could do today that could get you out of the busyness? And that, to me, is a little bit more manageable because we will have to buy gifts. We will be busy. But if there's one thing that I can do over the next few days leading up to Christmas that allows me and the family to focus on what it's all about, then I think that's very helpful.
And what kind of Christmas traditions does your family have?
We have a lot. I unfortunately for them, I love Christmas. So now I don't want to listen to Christmas music before Thanksgiving. Okay, and my daughter has gotten that from me in the genes. She's like, no, we can't. It has to be Thanksgiving before you can start listening to Christmas music. When I worked at Lakeland Air Islands, I helped start the Christmas light show, which was called Magical Nights of Lights. I think they may have changed the name. So I'm big in terms of just going and seeing Christmas lights. So we'll do that. And one of the things we like to do is, and the kids are a little older now, but when they were younger, we would surprise them. They would get in their pajamas. We'd say, all right, we're going to jump in the car, and we'd go get a little hot chocolate and just drive around and look at Christmas lights. But we try to do that not just as, a couple of nights before Christmas. We like to do that early in the season. So I like to get a jump on trying to create some Christmas memories. Obviously watching movies together, putting up the tree, all those kinds of things. But again, I want to try to do something once a day to create some kind of memory. We have this thing called a Christmas box where we put a note in the box and the kids have to go around the house and figure out what the note is that leads them. And then they may have a gift. It may be a small gift, or it may be a book, or it may be something. But again, it's this, what can I do today to create this Christmas memory for them?
And is there one Christmas tradition you think, hey, I think this is something that every family should implement?
Well, for me, we, on Christmas Eve, we get our family. Christmas Eve is a pretty big deal for us. Now, I don't want to open any Christmas gifts on Christmas Eve. Now, that's just me, okay? So I'm not saying that's a rule. But it depends. In these early days of our church, we have had Christmas Eve services. This year we actually won't because we're in a building process. But getting away and just doing a little bit of a Bible study, whether it's just me reading the Christmas story or just saying something and just reminding us why we're so thankful for what it's all about. And the four of us just trying to do something together, that for me, before the Christmas morning starts, getting together. And then we've typically, we'll go to my mom's for Christmas breakfast, and then we'll do one. So Christmas Day is kind of a hectic pace. But that night, the Christmas Eve night, just focusing on what it's about, reading the Christmas story, reading what it is all about, and then praying together. I think that's very important for us.
Since coming on board with North Point Ministries, what has been the most memorable part of the Christmas season for you?
Well, the main thing for us, this is kind of the Super Bowl, if you will, for church world, and so I've got to be very careful that I don't let work, take over, and so I'm trying to make sure that that we celebrate Christmas, and our kids love the church, and that's great, but at the same time, that we're able to celebrate Christmas for ourselves as well. So I'm trying to. It's a different mindset for me. Not growing up like you and as a preacher's kid, you know that busyness. Then when I didn't work for a number of years in the business world, I could just go attend church and come home.
Right.
Now it's several services. It's got to be great. All that. So there's a little bit of that pressure on in church world, and obviously the business world understands that as well in terms of busy times in the business world. But for me, I just feel like the fact that they love going to church, they love serving, they're a part of this as well. I want them to be a part of what we're doing, so it's not Dad's job, but this is our mission together. So one of the things that we've done over the years, having started these two churches, is allow them to serve, participate, even as little kids. What could they do to make sure that they're just not consumers, but they're participants in serving? And that's what they've been doing. They serve in our family ministry areas, even though they're relatively young, 15 and 13, to be serving kids. And they'll be doing that this Christmas season as well.
Condense for us, if you would, what is the Christmas message? What should we be taking away this time of year?
God gave, and we receive. And, the fact that God drew near through his Son, and that all are welcome, all are invited, and that God made his way to us. We don't have to make our way to him. And it's just a beautiful story, but it's the truth. We believe it's the true story, and it's an invitation for everyone. And, this world was a beautiful idea. We believe it was marred by sin. The sin separated us from God, but God was not content to leave it that way. And so he sent his Son to bridge that gap.
Christmas, for so many people, is a joyous time. I mean, it's hard not to be happy when you hear the Christmas music, family get-togethers. You're in dance recitals, music recitals, the shopping, seeing the tree grow up, the presents under it. But for a lot of people that are out there, it can also be the worst of times. It can be a depressing time when they're suffering with other issues. What advice can you give to someone that is struggling with depression, that's having a hard time getting into the Christmas spirit?
Well, our pastor, Joel Thomas, one of our pastors at North Point, did a message recently, and he called it First Christmas, that for many of you, this is your first Christmas without a spouse or without a particular loved one. And it's not a merry, joyous holiday season. I lost my dad a couple of years ago, so last Christmas was first Christmas for me. And my dad loved Christmas, and so that brings up some bittersweet memories. And I think being honest with where you are and having someone that you can say, this isn't a great season for me. And being in community, that's the great thing about a local church, whatever church you go to, or if you don't go to church, this is one of the reasons why the church is such a beautiful idea, to be around people that can comfort, love, and be with you. I think we all have a desire for community. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the church, one of the reasons the church exists is to provide that kind of comfort and community is a great idea. And for those who aren't involved in the church, maybe a New Year's resolution would be this time next Christmas, the next Christmas, 2015, I'm going to be involved in a local church that will provide me that comfort, and I can comfort someone else. And that's a biblical principle that as God has comforted you, you can then comfort people the same way. So the pain that you might be experiencing, there's someone else that's experiencing a similar pain, and maybe God's going to comfort you this Christmas season so that next Christmas season or before then, you can comfort them the way that God has comforted you.
You can pay it forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about the counseling services that are available through the North Point Ministries, through Gwinnett Church.
Well, we have a great network of counselors that we point people to, and it's a network that we built over the years. And I think it's a smart approach that we don't have in-house counselors, but we have a network of counselors that we refer people to based on where they are. There are counselors that obviously have a variety of different issues. And so as we meet with people and as we see, and if we feel like they need counseling, that's great. We actually have an event this month that's you could go to our website at gwinnettchurch.org or northpoint.org, and it's for people who are grieving. And we have a grief share program that we lead people through. And then after that, if they believe they need to go through counseling, then we have a whole network of counselors that we can point them to.
And the most important thing is for people not to feel the shame, not to to feel like they can't step up and ask for help. And that's a tough thing for people to overcome sometimes.
It
but
is.
know that help is out there.
It is. And at some point along the way, we've felt that counseling is for people who, you got to have a problem and then you go to counseling. Well, I don't know anybody that doesn't have a problem. Number one, I think all of our lives are a combination of some really good things going on and some really challenging things going on. And I believe in proactive counseling, which is why I'm in counseling. I want to have the best marriage I possibly can have. I want to be the best parent I could possibly be. So I need to have proactive counseling to help me, whether it's mentors or counselor or whatever. But particularly in this season, we do see the need go up. And we do provide opportunities for that. And we push people a little bit. We say, one of the reasons is because let's just be honest, it's called PRIDE. It's pride.
Yeah.
And you need to push through that, because you're not doing yourself or anyone else in your life any favors. And, if you can get past the pride and go, I do need help, that's the key in anything. Any struggle that you have to say, I think I need help. And we can't help anyone until they say that.
Right. Andy Stanley just had a great sermon series.
Yeah, right in the middle of it. Right. Yeah.
Pride.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a wonderful sermon. Well, you talked about New Year's resolutions, because that's just around the corner. 2015 is there. It's a time of year where people are making resolutions. But unfortunately for a lot of us, we have a difficult time keeping those. What advice would you give to someone that's setting up these New Year's resolutions that will help them get towards that successful resolution?
Well, I love goals. I love New Year's resolutions, and I believe you can set a stretch goal, and even if you don't, meet that particular goal, I think you may have taken some strides to make yourself better. And so I just have a passion for that. It's one of the things that Chick-fil-A taught me, that we should have a continual passion for improvement. How can you get better? How can you get better? And so I believe in very measurable, specific goals. But I put it in 4 areas, and this is what I tell our staff is at Gwinnett Church. Is the first thing is think abundantly. And how do you think abundantly? Well, I think Philippians 4:8 teaches us that how you think can actually lead you to joy. And so one of the things I do to help me think abundantly is I try to go on a 40-day devotional journey of a particular book. And a book that I have done on several occasions and will do again this year to start this new year out is 40 Days to a Joy-Filled Life by Tommy Newberry. And it's just, at the end of 40 days, it just kind of gets your mind set on how can you think more abundantly about life, about your relationships, because how you think is really, I think, in a lot of ways how you go. So think abundantly, then plan intentionally. Be very intentional about planning. I know for a lot of, as you all know, for a lot of couples, they do not plan the end. So if one spouse passes away, there typically could be a financial mess on their hands.
Right.
And so how can you plan intentionally about big issues of life? How can you plan intentionally for that vacation or what we call etched memories? I want to have 12 etched memories this year. That's one a month with my wife, my son, and my daughter. Well, etched memory doesn't necessarily mean going on a cruise to Alaska, right, but it could be I'm going to go to a concert with my daughter, just the two of us. I'm going to go to this with my son. I'm going to create so planning intentionally like that.
And that could also come into play too with the finances.
Absolutely.
That lead to so many problems.
Absolutely, yeah. So think abundantly, plan intentionally, and then execute consistently. It's one thing to have New Year's resolutions, but how are you going to execute them? And it's not enough to say, I want to lose 15 pounds. You've got to say how, a date, and who's going to help me. So that execution. And then the final one is celebrate frequently. And so it's think abundantly, plan intentionally, execute consistently, and celebrate frequently, because you do want to celebrate along the way. Hey, I made, if my goal is this from a financial standpoint, gosh, I made it here. I'm about halfway there. I need to celebrate.
So many people will do just step 1 and 4. They'll think abundantly and they'll celebrate the fact that, hey, I thought about this, instead of actually putting it into place. They're getting ready to get ready, but every one of those elements are so important. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Wise Counsel Project. If you enjoyed it, please consider rating us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. And for more information about the Wise Counsel Project, visit us on the web, wisecounselproject.com. You can also follow me on Twitter @GaryMartinHayes. Thanks for listening, and God bless.